I don't know if I'm surprised or not. I mean, when they canceled the oral arguments, I sort of was reading tea leaves and thinking, well, that's going to go well for us because normally they don't cancel oral arguments if they're going to rule against us. So I thought that was probably a good thing. But it's one of those things, you get an email with the docket notice saying, with the opinion, and you have no idea, and you open it. I mean, it's just like Christmas when, you didn't know Christmas was actually coming today.
Congratulations. You must be very happy and probably
Ashley
not
was
surprised.
Fanny.
I don't know if I'm surprised or not. I mean, when they canceled the oral arguments, I sort of was reading tea leaves and thinking, well, that's going to go well for us because normally they don't cancel oral arguments if they're going to rule against us. So I thought that was probably a good thing. But it's one of those things, you get an email with the docket notice saying, with the opinion, and you have no idea, and you open it. I mean, it's just like Christmas when, you didn't know Christmas was actually coming today.
Yep.
So it's like,
yeah, congratulations to
under
Ashley.
the tree, and you didn't even know there was a tree that was happening today. So it's kind of surreal. The impact of it, I don't think has quite hit me yet, but I'm very excited, very happy.
So what does it mean? Can you give a quick 411 for the non-lawyer audience of what does this mean?
Yeah, definitely. So the Court of Appeals has said that they agreed with us that there was an appearance of impropriety, and it was enough that Fani Willis should not be on the case. So she and all of her deputies were disqualified. And so what that means practically is the case will be assigned to what's called PAC. It's the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, and they'll be the ones that will review it. And I've said from day one, if we had an independent prosecutor, someone who wasn't financially or politically interested in the outcome of this case, it would never see the light of the day. It's not a case that would ever be brought. I mean, there's, hardly probable cause. You could indict just about anything. So you can find probable cause in just about anything. But I think if you had a neutral prosecutor looking at it, they're going to say, no way, this is ridiculous. We have other cases. This case is not, it doesn't rise to the level of a crime. And we just don't think that this is where we should be prosecuting cases. So I think that it will essentially die on the vine once it goes to an independent prosecutor. I don't think Fani Willis is going to go away quietly, though. I've already got a notice of intent, just got it on email, where she plans on appealing to the Supreme Court. So the question will be whether or not they even want to touch it. It's a good opinion. So I don't think the Supreme Court is going to have any interest in dabbling in this, but we'll see.
The Georgia Supreme Court. Here is Fani Willis trying to make this case, because it resulted in a hearing, of course, at which she embarrassed herself, about you and your alleged lies. Watch this.
Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job.
We watched this yesterday.
Out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued. But since it did, here I am.
Did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On January, this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. But it seems today that a lawyer writes a lie and then it's printed for all of the world to see. When I met him.
Oh, man. This lady has the nerve to act like she hasn't done any of this. Not to mention, she had a separate hearing. If you guys remember, we covered this live. She was subpoenaed to appear at that hearing, and she didn't even show up. It's embarrassing, man. This whole thing is embarrassing. The Fani Willis to her office, and looking back at this is bad. Which we might review this hearing again, just because Ashley Merchant does a great job here, and it really gives light and shows to kind of the attitude and the way that the DA's office moves in general.
Judge Reeves introduced us. He handed me his business card. I'm unsure if I handed him my business card, but we exchanged information. He said, if you ever need any help, give me a call. And he walked to the parking lot.
So after that, you started dating shortly thereafter, correct?
A lie. That's one of your lies.
Okay.
Well, that's not how really the trial court saw it or the appellate court saw it. And, you tell me whether you think you're going to be getting an apology now from Fani Willis for publicly accusing you of being a liar.
Yeah, right.
I don't think I'll be holding my breath for that, and I don't know that I've ever been called a liar so many times. And, I just kept thinking, what is it that you think I'm lying about? Because just about everything that I've alleged has turned out to be true. And if something wasn't, it wasn't not true. We fought over the term cohabitate. We fought over the term whether or not you cohabitated. And that was one of her big things, saying, oh, I lied because they didn't live together. And I was using the Georgia definition of cohabitation that we have in the criminal code. If you spend the night together in someone's bed at their house, that's considered cohabitation under Georgia law. So, that was the big, oh, you're lying because we didn't live together. Well, you cohabitated. And so, I think we were just playing with words at that point. But no, I certainly am not going to be holding my breath for an apology anytime soon. But I can't believe how many times I've been called a liar in the year 2024. I sort of feel like I should try and come up with a New Year's resolution having to do with that.
I think you're good. You don't need a resolution. You've already gotten a decision that declares effectively
Right.
what you said was true, and it was deeply problematic. Phil Holloway, you said it from the beginning as well, that this absolutely is untoward behavior, and that you can't have, just so people are reminded of what the controversy was, you can't have the sitting DA with a financial incentive to make the case go on, not because of her own job, she has that no matter what, but because she's having an affair with a special prosecutor she brought in who does get paid based on how long the case goes on. He's getting money from the county if it goes on longer. If it ends, he doesn't. And he was taking her all over the world. I said, after that case, I was ready to have an affair with Nathan Wade. I would love to see Belize. He takes you everywhere.
Oh,
weird,
Megan,
man.
great to be with you. Look, I think Ashley needs to go ahead and legally change her name to Erin Brockovich, because if it weren't for, her, just unending and undying, zealous advocacy for her client, we wouldn't be here right now talking about
fact.
this. Look, this opinion is absolutely spectacular. I urge everybody to read it. I tweeted out a lot of it, but there's a lot there. And the odor of mendacity, that phrase, okay, which is, of course, the catchphrase now everybody associates with this case, that features prominently in this rule. It even went into a footnote and
That just remind the audience where we got that from.
Oh, okay. So yeah, the judge said, look, her testimony, that and that of Wade, had the quote odor of mendacity, and which means, and as the Court of Appeals
YSL
defined in a
Barbie.
footnote, they said, look, odor of mendacity. Mendacity means like dishonesty and falseness. Okay, and so this is the type of appearance of conflict of interest. Now, they didn't find an actual conflict, but they said this is the kind of appearance of impropriety, appearance of a conflict of interest that does warrant her removal from the case. And there is no other remedy that will suffice. The trial judge said, look, we're going to cure this by just making her get rid of Mr. Wade. The Court of Appeals, I think, correctly said, that's all fine and good, but that doesn't cure what she did in the past. It doesn't cure the conflict of interest or the really egregious appearance of a conflict of interest. And so it was all of that stuff. It was the Nathan Wade stuff. It was the mendacity, the smell, if you will, of her testimony. And then, of course, it was also all these out-of-court statements that she made where she goes into the well of a church and she slimes the defendants in front of, by the way, a pool of potential jurors. Okay, you can't try cases on the courthouse steps, let alone in the well of a church filled with potential jurors on the case. And so it was all.
And that was nasty work too. If y'all didn't see that, I recommend you go watch it, and I'll see if I can find it for you. But she went into a church and basically said, "Oh, I'm being attacked. This is terrible. How could they do this to me?" As the case is ongoing, she's in a church talking about this. And this was actually mentioned during the YSL trial and a couple of the motions that Brian Steele had written up talking about Judge Glanville being in there, some of the misconduct by the DA's office, and then pointing to Fani Willis, the head of the DA's office, as the example. And there was time after time after time not showing up for a hearing that she was subpoenaed for. Pretty much Fani Willis doing whatever she wants to. And the sad thing about this is Fulton County, they didn't care, and they voted her in for another 4 years. It's it's frustrating as someone who wants to make a change and who sees what's going on behind the scenes. And I actually put my feet to the pavement. I went out and vote. We talked about it here. I know a lot of you in the chat. and in the comments are in Fulton County and watch this. And we tried to make a change, and unfortunately, here we are. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Maybe some of this karma will come back. I don't know.
All of these things put together,
It's embarrassing,
that
man.
I think made this the right opinion. And it's for, just like Ashley said, the Georgia Supreme Court, I predict, is not going to want to touch this. This case is effectively over. It's dead. It's dying. It's not going to be revived by the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, in my view.
Wow. I mean, that's just huge. I'm going to bring Mike in too in a second, but Ashley's got to leave in a minute. So I want to go back to you, Ashley. Did you really believe when you filed this thing initially that it could effectively, potentially end the whole case?
I did. I mean, I thought that it was something that was large enough and something that was deep enough that it could effectively end it. But I knew that it would take some really strong judges to give us, every step we had to win. We had to win a hearing. That was the first one, So when we filed it, and it's crazy because this time last year I was writing the motion, getting ready. I mean, I spent the holidays preparing it and editing it with my law partner, with my husband, and getting it ready to be filed in early January.
Texting with Terrence Bradley.
Yeah. Talking to Terrence Bradley. Exactly. Talking to Terrence Bradley. He was away for the holidays, and I remember waiting until he got back from the holidays to sort of verify all the facts with him.
Yeah, shout out to Terrence.
So it was a year ago thinking about what's going to happen with this. And I knew that we were going to have to fight. So we were going to have to take every step of the way. We were going to have another fight. We had to make sure that the judge gave us a hearing because we needed that hearing, and then we needed the judge to issue a strong order. And even though Judge McAfee didn't rule with us, he issued a strong order and he made factual findings that were really strong. I'd hoped that Fani Willis would do the right thing, but she dug in. She did the expected thing, knowing her, she dug in. But, so, I knew that it had the potential to completely derail the case if we won at every step of the way. But I also knew that was going to be a really long haul. And I knew that it was going to be something where they dug in a lot and fought vehemently. You've seen how much they wanted to keep this case. But, one thing I want to point out is the more they dug in, the more you could see that they were biased, because these are government employees. If most of the time, if you say a judge is biased or you say a DA is biased, they say, okay, send it to someone else. That's immediately when you file a motion to recuse someone or disqualify, normally they're like, bye, because who wants more work when you're a government salaried employee? You usually don't want extra work. So normally the normal response would be, disqualify me, let someone else look at it. I feel so strongly about the facts of my case that if you had a neutral and detached prosecutor, they're going to come to the same conclusion. So I don't need to have a personal stake in this case. So when we saw her dig in and not do that, that said all we needed to know. That said, you definitely do have a personal stake in this case.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yep. I mean, it could have been that she was seeing the world thanks to Nathan Wade's additional money, and it could have been hatred of Donald Trump. Either way, it's inappropriate. Hatred toward the defendant is not an appropriate motivator for a DA. She's supposed to just seek justice. What was your client's reaction when you told him the news?
Yeah, so I got to call him this morning, and getting to make a call like that is pretty exciting. I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty special moment, and so we definitely had a special moment. We were teared up over it, and in shock, and kudos to him, because I couldn't do it without him having the fortitude to fight. I mean, he was offered a misdemeanor reckless conduct plea. He was offered one of the first pleas in this case, and he rejected it. Bad. So he could have taken a plea last September, be done with this, and he had the guts to fight. And he had to authorize me doing this, had to authorize that I have autonomy in my job, but I'm also not going to do something like this without my client's approval. And so, I'm really proud of him for having the guts. Most people wouldn't have the ability to turn down a misdemeanor when they're faced with a RICO charge. And so, I was proud of him, and he was proud of me. So we had a special moment.
Yeah, really absolutely. Great attorney, man. Shout out to Ashley Merchant. If you could have someone that could represent you. There's some great attorneys out here in Fulton County. Now, Fulton County is just up to us to do the right thing and make a change with our vote. Because, man, aren't y'all sick of Fani Willis? Man, it'll be interesting to see how this goes moving forward. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments.